Okay, so at this point you have gone through and you have done the readings, and now we are going to check out some sample cover letters and resumes. I like using real world cover letters and resumes because these are ones that have worked or not worked, depending. So this is actually one that worked, but this is not a perfect cover letter and resume. It's actually one that I had to do a little bit of work to decide that I was interested in hiring this person. So I'm going to share over and take a look at a resume and cover letter that I got that wound up being successful, but almost didn't actually. Okay, so as you can see, I have actually fictionalized this one, just like I tell you, you can do for class. So obviously I don't have anyone on staff named Ellen Reporter, and 555 is never a real phone number. So here we are in Ellen Reporter's resume, or sorry, cover letter. And it is it's very nicely initially laid out. I take a look at it and I'm like, okay, I like it. And then I start seeing like a couple little places where things could be different. So generally on a cover letter and resume, you have both where you are applying and also to whom you are applying. Because for one thing, you want folks to know that you're applying to that job. So what I would be doing for this particular cover letter, I'm gonna do it first via suggest, is we have this like floating Eugene, Oregon here. And I'm like, are you in Eugene or am I in Eugene? Obviously I'm in Eugene, but I probably would actually want to know that Ellen Reporter is in Eugene, Oregon. And for whatever reason, she might not have wanted to give me her actual street address. And honestly, these days, everything is done so much through the web, it maybe isn't necessary. But it would still be nice to know if this person is in town and thus available for an interview. So that would be something to either have the address or to actually have it mentioned somewhere down below. I might just do right here, return Eugene, Oregon. And now I know that, and actually for the sake of prettiness, I want it to capital E because I think that looks nicer. There, and now we know this person's in Eugene, Oregon. So the other thing you want to do is you actually always want to say who you are writing to. So in this case, in order to make me happy, they're applying to Eugene Weekly. Oh, look, someone's got it set for very large spacing. I am using the original one. So I'm going to take off suggest mode because it's annoying. So I'm just going to select this, and up here under format, under align and indent, nope, lines and paragraph spacing, I'm going to go to single spacing to see if I can get rid of whatever weirdness is happening there. Might have to work on that one. Eugene Weekly, 1251 Lincoln Street, Eugene, Oregon, 97401. And this just shows me that the person is applying for the exact job that I know they wish to be applying for. Okay, I got it to normal text here, so it's Arial 11. One thing this person did that I like is they actually just fancied it up a little bit. If you look really closely, this is not black and this is. So I'm going to reduce the size or match the sizes. Okay, so that's 10.2 over here. So I'm just coordinating things a little bit between, so things match up. 10.2. And then I'm going to go over here to font color and make it gray. So now it just kind of matches up a little more nicely and has kind of a little bit of a professional look to it that I like here. Okay, so next thing that happens here, I actually, when this person applied, I ignored their initial application. And the reason I ignored their initial application was actually, there was two reasons, two things that for me as an employer were red flags. And the first one is they spelled my name wrong. My name is Mortensen, and I'm hiring reporters that pay attention to details. And to spell the person's name wrong in journalism is a major faux pas. So the fact that they spelled my name wrong, for me, that was almost kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to even read any further. That was the first red flag. The second red flag is, in all honesty, don't use Ms. or Miss or Mr. And there's a number of different reasons for that. First of all, In this day and age, we do not assume gender. You do not know what gender I go by unless I have told you what gender I use or what gender I identify with. And don't assume it. You can insult someone. You can, for one thing, Ms. I mean, she's being cautious with Ms. because she's not assuming whether I'm married or not married. But for one thing, I get that a lot. I get a lot of dear Mrs. Mortensen, and I'm like, I'm super not married, so let's not even go there. So don't assume gender. It is actually always more correct just to write the person's name. So they would have been better off by writing Dear Camilla Mortensen. And that way they're addressing me without addressing my gender, and they are spelling my name correctly. The other thing about including the Ms. is actually I have a PhD, I have a doctorate. So especially in academics, people get pretty upset if you call them Ms. or Mr. when you should be calling them doctor or professor. A quick Google search would have let this applicant know that I have that. And so it would have erred on the side of caution to write doctor. I actually, as we've talked about earlier in this term, don't really care. But I would rather have doctor than Ms. And like I said, if all fails, just the person's full name. I was the person who did the job posting that they're responding to. So it is accurate to say, Dear Camilla Mortensen. Whenever possible, you do want to apply to a specific person. You cannot always find that, in which case, Dear Hiring Director, Dear Eugene Weekly would have been fine too. It is better to know who it is you're applying to. So once I got past those sort of like little red flags for me, again, those are attention to detail, that type of thing. I'm, looking for a reporter for Alternative Weekly, so I'm looking for something with a little bit of sass. So they write, I'm a writer, editor, filmmaker, DJ, and line cook, or as I like to call it, a jack of all trades. I've always been known to be someone who lets their curiosity lead the way, which is why I fell into journalism in the first place. Whether it's following a daycare, struggling to stay afloat, or spending the night at a truck stop, I'm desperate to learn more about people across all cultures and communities. Eugene Weekly is the perfect place for me to continue growing as a journalist because they understand the importance of following your passion to uplift underrepresented voices. So this person obviously looked into Eugene Weekly and who we are and what we do. And I really liked that. So that is what let me sort of overcome some of the initial typos. I will say the other thing, and this is actually really important when you're applying for a job that let me overcome some of the initial, is this person was really persistent. They followed up a week later and was like, hey, I actually sent you an outdated version of my resume. Here is a newer one. And then they waited another week or two and was like, I would like to check on that, the job posting. Have you hired? I'm really interested. And that's really important to me. I'm looking for someone who really wants to work here. So that made a difference for me. So they continue. During my time at the University of Oregon, I've made it a point to dig deeper into the stories I write, sometimes even creating a written, visual, and audio component to the story. My most recent example of this is my truck driving series I started last fall. I started working on a film about an organization called Women in Trucking that supports female truck drivers across America by providing them with mentorship. This film has turned into an article too, which was featured in the winter 2023 edition of Ethos. I'm just going to gently point out here that to often has a comma before it, and actually which always has a comma before it. So there's two places there. I'm a little more forgiving on minor grammar stuff than I am on things like misspelling someone's name. So that was not too red flaggy to me. Okay, then they continue. I have 4 years of experience in an accredited journalism school where I'm learning how to best tell other people's stories. In those 4 years, I have written countless articles about issues that affect my community, like unionization efforts, challenges student veterans face, and more. My work is primarily published in the University of Oregon's award-winning feature magazine Meet Ethos, where I've written 4 feature stories and 1 cover story. In addition to Ethos, I've published in Align, Hard Eyes Magazine, Oregon Music News, and the Daily Emerald. So here, this person has sort of unpacked for me what they have done and what's make them good for this job. The truck driving example is a very specific example of work they have done, and that is what your cover letter does. Your cover letter shows you as a person. It shows how well you would fit in. It's your chance to be very personalized. I wouldn't say personal because you don't want to get overly personal in a cover letter, but you do want a cover letter to be personalized to who you are applying for. And here's where the writer now moves into being particularly personalized because they've obviously researched the publication. What separates Eugene Weekly from other publications is how personable it is. Many of the stories in EW are long-form narrative journalism pieces where writers are able to dig deep in their stories and get to know the people in them. These types of pieces are not only my favorite to write, but my favorite to read as well. Writing for the publication Ethos over the past 3 years, actually needs a comma after it as well, has given me invaluable training in feature writing and long form journalism. During my time at Ethos, I've gotten to know the process of pitching, writing, and more editing and more editing, so which is good. It shows me she's down to get a lot of edits that is necessary to create a solid piece of work. I've also learned how to be flexible when your story takes a different turn than expected. During my first term writing for Ethos, I was tasked to write a story about farm-to-table restaurants in Eugene. All my sources fell through and the story was completely lost. Instead of giving up, I pivoted. I changed my topic entirely, wrote on a tighter deadline, and ended up writing a cover story on daycares and labor shortages. It was grueling, but I'm so grateful for what I learned in the process. So here it's the second example of themselves as a person in the workplace and showing how they deal with adversity, which is great. Reporting for Eugene Weekly would help me grow as a journalist, as well as allow me to continue nurturing my unbridled passion to give people a place to tell their stories. Thank you for your time and consideration. And here, if I'm worried about trying to make it fit into one page, because I did make it a little bit longer by adding on, I'm just going to shorten this up a little bit. There's different ways you can do. You can sort of bring some of the pages up here. So now we can see I've made it fit back onto one page. Oops, here's Ellen Reporter. And the last thing I can do, if I really want to make this personalized and make it very clear that this is a letter written by me, is up here under Insert. I can go Insert, Drawing, New. And I'm going to want to use over here under Line, I'm going to do Scribble. And I'm going to do, this actually takes some time. I don't know if you guys have done this before. I usually sign my own name, not a name I've made up, so I'm not doing a great job on it. Oops, somehow I managed to destroy it too. Here we go. Oh, that's bad. When you make a mistake like that, you just go undo up here. So E. Ellen. Oh my goodness, I just keep screwing this up. I promise I know how to do this. Let's try one last time. Ellen, I'm going to do Ellen Reporter. It's actually kind of more or less how I sign my name. Here we go. I'm going to go save and close. And here we have the signature. And if it's too big, which it kind of is, I can shrink it down and make everything fit onto the page if I so desire. So I will probably want to shrink this even more just to get it to fit with Ellen Reporter down there. Let's see. If I really want to be neurotic about it, what else can I reduce? Oh, I can actually make this a little smaller. And I'm going to make this also a 9-point font. I'm actually going to make the date a little bigger. I liked it slightly bigger. And now I have fit it onto the page. And overall, it looks quite nice. So it sort of stands out. So that is one example of, it's not a perfect cover letter, but it is a very good cover letter. And it is one that led me to take on this person. I found that they really understood the weekly and they showed they understood the weekly. And there was some sort of minor typo-y things in there, but nothing that freaked me out too badly, except for the misspelling of my name and the use of Ms., but that was overcome by their sheer persistence. So next video is going to be about the resume that accompanied it.